So we've got a really sad update for you amidst the fallout from last week's riots. We can throw this tear sheet up on the screen. So this is from the Washington Post. U.S. Capitol Police on Sunday announced the death of off-duty officer Howard Liebengood, the son and namesake of a former Senate Sergeant-at-Arms, a lobbyist and Hill staffer. He went by Howie. He died on Saturday, and the statement didn't list a cause of death, but two law enforcement officials told the Washington Post that he had died by suicide days after being on the scene of Wednesday's violent siege of the Capitol building by a pro-Trump mob. So one more life lost in this absolute mayhem, and it's tragic. I think that's all you can say about it.
Yeah, that it absolutely is tragic. It really comes amidst so many questions that we're asking here about what the hell exactly happened. A lot of new video actually came out over the weekend showing the actual murder of the original officer, Officer Sicknick, who died after being in critical condition. Now, the circumstances around that are very unclear. There are some reports he was bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher, but you can see that he was clearly surrounded and he was on the ground. And we can throw this up there on the screen just in general about all of the questions that have been asking here, the string of failures from all the way from, I mean, if you look at the very initial breach, we're talking about 3 officers, 3 standing there in front of the barricade. The female officer was immediately knocked down and I mean, and like clearly surrounded. And some of them were trying to help her up, but then the others were, keep her down. That kept her down in terms of with the barricade. And it was just a total and complete nightmare from the very beginning. I still feel that there is so much to be said about what exactly happened here and so much. And the scary thing is,
we still know so little.
We don't know much. And this might not be the end. There are calls now for more rallies and for other things here in Washington in the lead up to the inauguration. And there's a question of, are they going to be ready again next time? I mean, I don't know. I don't feel particularly, I don't have a lot of confidence that they will. I
mean, we still have no accounting of what the hell happened.
Yeah. We don't even know half the people who were in there.
I mean, we don't. And, there was another video that got played a lot last week. You probably saw of one African-American officer who's backing up the steps, leading the mob away from it. Turns out the Senate is right there. And this was in the early moments when it hadn't been secured. And we know some of these people were highly armed. And so he really smartly glances over, sees the Senate is not yet secure, and on his own, facing down all these people, leads them in the opposite direction so that they can have more time to secure the Senate. I mean, that is the thing, is like, every loss of life here is obviously incredibly tragic, but pretty lucky it wasn't a lot worse. People running around with zip ties and guns and explosive devices and all of the rest here. And talking to Ken Klippenstein last week, and he's been working his law enforcement sources, and this is borne out in the New York Times reporting that we just showed you there on the screen. Like, they didn't really do a threat assessment. They weren't prepared at all. They really didn't think, and Ken attributed this to ideological blind spot. They just really didn't think that this was going to be a problem, even though the planning was happening out in broad daylight on Twitter and Parler and other places that were easily accessible to know that this could potentially go off the rails. Yeah. So we haven't had any sort of accounting. Chris Hayes pointed out, anytime there's like a local shooting or some sort of mass violence event, normally you're hearing from law enforcement. They're doing pressers, they're doing updates. Nothing.
They're hiding. Let's be honest.
Nothing.
Yeah, they're hiding. Okay, they don't want to tell. They don't want to. It's one of the biggest security failures in modern American history.
American history. Period.
It is on par with 9/11 in terms of the failure. And it's interesting. As always, just like 9/11, all the breadcrumbs are right there. I saw an open source security analyst on Twitter. It's because tweet has gone viral since then. In December, like 12/21, being like, there is a serious chance that these people are going to storm the Capitol, and he cites like all of these different tweets and organizations. It was this guy. If this guy can call it, what are you people who we pay so much money to? What are you doing? As Ken pointed out, there were billions of dollars actually personally allocated to securing the Capitol and to securing our sites here in Washington. Now, look, there's a lot of security theater. Theater is always a big part of security, but it's not supposed to be this much theater.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so the threat is not gone. There's still a lot of chatter. Twitter put out a warning that there's a lot of chatter about January 17th. There's a lot of chatter about, the actually inauguration day, January 19th, January 20th. I hope this time someone is taking this threat seriously because, I mean, from what we saw, look, this was a lot of people, but it certainly didn't seem like so many people that you would just overrun any kind of defense. If they had been prepared, they could have rebuffed this attempt and we'd be in a much better place now as a country. The thing that I really get nervous about, however, is that a lot of liberals, so-called liberals, look at this set of events and they start to go, oh, we need new domestic terror laws.
Yes.
Like they go instantly
this is like
to the
mainstream
potential
discourse.
Yes,
yeah.
mainstream media. Joe Biden has commented on it. This idea of like, oh, our laws aren't strong enough to identify this threat. No.
Yes, they are.
We have plenty of laws. Like
Yeah.
the problem isn't that the existing slate of laws isn't strong enough. The problem is that there was no planning and that there's been a limited application of those laws in the aftermath. We're seeing more and more arrests coming down the pike. But we don't need to now hand the government more power, more mass surveillance tools to be used more directly on our own citizens is not the direction we want to go in.
And I don't think people actually understand the power and what we can do here. In terms of our terrorism laws, and I mean, you can basically do whatever you want. I used to cover a lot of Islamic terrorism. And look, the way the FBI behaved itself there is like they would, if you tweeted something about ISIS, like they would contact you and talk to you for months and basically be like, you should go buy a gun or a ticket to Syria or something. And the moment you buy that ticket to Syria, you have material support for terrorism charge. We're going to throw you in jail for 25 years. Is that what you want to start seeing unleashed on American citizens? And just because many of these people were citizens, and you take that and extrapolate that out to a more political context, I can't think of anything that could be worse. As we were just saying, we have the money. There's all this money that just got passed. We have the resources. The FBI could easily do this. Any of these other, if they wanted to, a new law is not what we need.
Yeah.
They always point to that as the part of the failure. That's not the failure. It was incompetence, got caught on the job as usual, and then they don't want to blame themselves and say, no, we need more resources, more stuff to contract out to other security companies and build more of the swamp here in D.C. That is not the answer to our problems right now.
And I understand I understand the emotion around it, and I understand the instinct of even with look, I think this was just a law enforcement failure, like planning failure, law enforcement failure. They should have been able to rebuff this attack. But then there's been this bloodthirst online from liberals for wanting vengeance because Black Lives Matter protesters were mistreated. It's like, we want these people to be just as mistreated. So, no, we want everybody to be treated in a uniform way. We don't want, just rampant national security state and constantly upping so that we want you to be treated as poorly as Islamic terrorists were treated. No, that's not the end goal here, right? You have a principle, you stick with the principle, and it's most important that it's applied to people who are your ideological opponents, because that's when it's tough and that's when it actually matters.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
Tomorrow on Rising, we're going to have Jennifer Holdsworth and Rachel Bovard for Team Rising.
A friend of the show, DC Bureau Chief at The Intercept, Ryan Grimm. He's going to be with us. Remember to hit the subscribe button. Don't miss any of our videos. Don't forget to like and share as well. And we'll see you all tomorrow.
Have a great day, everybody.